it's just about honoring yourself and having the self-discipline to make yourself a better person inside and out. Right? So you choose within this list one small step that you can take to better yourself, and then you start doing it every single day. Hi, and welcome to this new Tea Talk with Adama, where we discuss mindset, business, and everything in between. I upload a new podcast every Wednesday and a Tea Talk every Thursday, so make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you don't miss anything. Today, I want to talk about becoming her. You know, this version of yourself who is unstoppable, who has their financial, personal, professional life together, and with basically the woman that you want to become. So there are many ways to interpret becoming her or becoming that girl. It really depends on each and every single woman. So today I want to just share with you some tips that I'm implementing to become my own best version, which I think you can also implement and adapt to your own lifestyle and your own desires in life. So if you are interested, keep watching, sit back, relax, and let's spill the tea. So my first tip to help you become her is to actually sit down and write down a description of this woman. Be very detailed about it. What does she like? What does she look like? Her hair, makeup, what she wears every day. How does she interact with people? Is she like very open-minded and extroverted, or is she more like observant and introverted? Where does she live? Does she go to the gym? How often? What does her inner cycle look like? Does she have a lot of friends or only a close and small group of friends? Is she close to her family? How often does she visit them? Does she like traveling, and how often and how many countries has she visited so far and where she wants to go next? What about her career and finances? Does she invest? Does she own her own house? Is she an entrepreneur? Is she working on a 9 to 5? Etc. etc. There are so many aspects of that woman that you can describe to make sure that you know exactly who she is and what she wants. And I will tell you why it is so important a bit later. But basically you have to write it down on a piece of paper, because you might have a vague idea of what it means like for you to become her. But until you write it down and make it specific to what you desire, it will remain a dream instead of a vision that you can actually achieve. So if you don't want to procrastinate on that any further, then you can pause this video and start writing down your own description of becoming her. My next tip is, once you have this list done, you need to highlight one small action that you can take every day that will bring you one step closer to becoming that new version of yourself. So instead of making big plans and big changes in your life which might not work for you, I want you to just focus on taking one small step. For example, you wrote down what she looks like, right? So what can you do to rearrange your wardrobe to have something that looks more like the wardrobe that your best version will have? And it doesn't mean that you have to go on a shopping spree and get rid of all your current clothes, but I'm sure that you can rearrange it and give some of the stuff that you are not wearing to charity, and then focus on the pieces that you absolutely love and just add some more pieces in your wardrobe if needed, but start with what you have already. So if you always wanted to change your wardrobe to look like this best version of yourself, start doing it step by step. And another small easy step that you can take today to become her is to take better care of yourself, eating healthier, working out at home or at the gym. So this is something that will not require you to invest a lot of money, and it's just about, honoring yourself and having the self-discipline to make yourself a better person inside and out, right? So you choose within this list one small step that you can take to better yourself, and then you start doing it every single day. And once that becomes an habit, you add another small step that you can take every single day. And so that's how you can stack up these small steps that become bigger steps and big changes on the long run without overwhelming yourself. My next step is to learn how to build habits. And so usually we say that in order for something to become an habit, you have to practice it for at least 21 days. And so there are two books that I recommend you to read. I'm currently reading Atomic Habits from James Clear regarding building healthier habits and getting rid of bad ones. And so this will help you build your own habits to becoming the new version of yourself, so that you don't have to try to imagine how it looks like to build healthier habits. So I would recommend you to read this book. I'm also currently reading it, so I can give you a review about it later on if you want to. Let me know in the comments. And another one that I've read 3 years ago, which is also a very famous book, is The Miracle Morning. So basically, when I actually was at the beginning of my self-development and personal development journey and working a job that was excruciating, where I was underpaid, undervalued, and so on and so forth, I decided to read this book because I wanted to build healthier habits and also start to become a better version of myself and value myself more, so that I could also show the world my value and get that reciprocated in my job, in my life, and so on. So there are some interesting things discussed in the book, and there are some tips to help you have a productive morning before 8 a.m. And you will see in the book that the author says that he wakes up at 5 a.m. and that's something I tried as well, and I understand why people do it. Personally, waking up at 5 a.m. didn't work for me very long. Even though I'm a morning person, I like to wake up early and go to bed early and feel like I can start my day in a quiet environment. 5 a.m. was way too early for me. Like, especially during winter time, I couldn't wake up and see that it was still super dark. My brain felt like I was still in the middle of the night. So it was like, what the hell are you doing? You are supposed to be still asleep. So honestly, for me, like, it didn't work out. I found that my sweet spot is 6 a.m. 6 to 6:30, depending on the season. Right now, I'm waking up at 6 a.m. and for me, it gives me 2 hours to have a slow and quiet morning routine where I can do my meditation, my yoga, read a book for 1 hour or listen to an audiobook, and writing down my to-do list of the day before I actually start to get into the work. And so that's why I say, every kind of tips that you will read regarding building habits and routines, you have to take them with a grain of salt and adapt it to your own lifestyle, to what is possible and doable to you. If you are more an evening and night person, then maybe you want to work late and then wake up later. So it's up to you, but definitely think about how you can start building healthier habits and get rid of procrastination and other unhealthy habits that you may have currently. So my next tip is to build your own morning and evening habits and set reminders to make sure that you don't miss them. So in my case, I'm currently using ClickUp for my business and also for my personal life. So I set up on ClickUp recurring tasks so that I know every day and every week the tasks that I need to do in my morning and evening routines. So when I wake up, I get these reminders for the different things that I want to do in my morning routine, like 20-minute yoga and stretching, and then 1 hour of reading, and then 30 minutes of planning my video content of the day. Right? So that way it's easier to make it an habit. If you get the reminders all the time, you actually have to get on your phone and mark it as checked or unchecked, and it does something to you when you don't mark it as checked, because you feel like you should have done it, and so I think it can help you stay more consistent if you have these reminders. And I'm old school, I like writing things down on paper in my journal, but I realized that it doesn't always help me remain consistent with it if I don't get the daily or weekly reminder. So I would encourage you to test that out to see if it's working for you. And so you might have just a light sound whenever you have to wake up or you have to do something on your to-do list. Make sure that it is a sound that you like, whether it is motivational music or just a light-hearted sound. Because I realized lately that since I have my iPhone, I use the regular alarm on the iPhone, the annoying ringing, and I realized that it is actually too stressful for me. It's like I always wake up kind of jumping because it's an aggressive sound, and sometimes even like in my dreams I feel like I'm hearing it, you know. So I had to change that, and now I use a soft music to wake myself up. I don't use this alarm anymore like first thing in the morning because it was just too much. So this might sound kind of irrelevant, but it's actually super important to think about that as well. The way you wake up is super important. I used to wake up and get straight to work. Whenever I would wake up early, it was because I wanted to get things done in my business. And now I realize that I'm even more productive if I take first some time to myself to meditate, to read, instead of jumping right into it. So think about that as well. If you are the kind of person who usually gets straight to work, just take a few steps back and think about what you could do to have a more relaxing morning, because you don't have to rush all the time. You have to also learn to just be quiet, because we are programmed to rush all the time and feel like we are not doing something meaningful, we are not productive. But just sitting there, drinking water, meditating is actually also a productive activity, something that is super important for your balance. So try that out and let me know what you thought about it in the comments. Also, one trick here: don't set the same kind of morning and evening routines during the weekdays and the weekends. Weekends are for you. And so something that personally I don't do is I don't set any alarms during the weekend, because trust me, if you set your alarm at, let's say, even 6 a.m., 7 a.m. every weekday, your brain will automatically wake you around the same time during the weekend. So you don't even need an alarm for that. And you have to also take some breaks. You know, your routines are not things that you should feel compelled to do every single day, so you can adapt them and have more chilled routines during the weekend. For me, weekends are usually recording days, so I don't set anything on my to-do except recording at least one podcast and one TeaTalk. So when I get this done, I'm good. I don't feel like I need to do any extra work if I don't feel like it. And so that's also something you should take into consideration for your weekends, especially if you are still working a 9 to 5. So meaning that you only have 2 days to relax and focus on yourself, really. So don't put too much pressure on yourself to have a 7-day morning and evening routine. Start with 3 if you can, then 4, then 5, but take at least 1 day off. The next tip I have for you is to always start with the most challenging task on your to-do. For example, as I told you, usually weekends for me are for recording videos for my YouTube channel. And so I have my podcast and my TeaTalks. Usually the podcasts are the ones that takes me a lot more effort. They are more prepared. I have my notes on my laptop, and so the podcast is my main weekly content. So I put a lot of effort into it. I research the topics and so on. And so usually this is the video that takes me a lot more time and energy to record. So whenever I want to record my videos, I always start with the podcast first. Once the podcast is recorded and sent to my editor, I feel much more at ease. And then I carry on recording at least 1 or 2 other videos, usually the TeaTalks. And so I realized that for me, it makes much more sense to start with the most challenging task instead of the easiest one, because when I start with the easiest one, I still feel kind of the pressure and I'm already thinking about the next task and I'm not really into it. I'm already thinking, okay, I still need to do this and this and that, and I still need to record the podcast. It's gonna take me time and so on. And so that's why I always start with the most challenging task on my to-do, because it is a kind of relief for me, and then I can easily finish the next tasks on my to-do because they are simple anyway. And so I would recommend you to do that as well. Always start with the most challenging one first thing in your day, and then you will see that it will be much easier for you to complete your to-do. And another thing that I tell myself whenever I have to do something that takes me a lot of effort and energy, I always tell myself that it is about the why and not the how. So when I'm procrastinating to record my videos because I don't feel like it, I don't feel like showing up on camera, I always remember why I do it. And so even if it seems like complicated, I'm like, okay, you need to go step by step. First, take your breakfast, make sure you have your notes ready, your bullet points, then do your makeup with some music on, then set up everything and your camera, and then just hit the record button, don't think twice about it, and start talking. So I always take it step by step, because if I think about all the things that I have to do before I can actually get my videos recorded, I'm not even going to start. So that's why I just think about the simple step that you have to take, and then the next one, and then the next one. Don't think about the entire thing, just think about the next step that you can take. And the next tip for you that I have is to reward yourself, and not only when you do something right, when you follow your to-do and your morning and evening routines, also reward yourself whenever you feel like it. There is a huge and problematic misconception that we have, which is that you need to have done something to deserve to rest, and that is completely untrue. If you feel like resting, you don't have to prove yourself that you deserve some rest. If your body tells you, I'm done for the day, I can't do anymore, then listen to it. Resting shouldn't be something that you have to be deserving of. It is your right, and so reward yourself whenever possible, because you are doing your best. Whether you realize it or not, you have to give yourself credit for all the little things that you do every day to better yourself. Like, for example, watching this video. So all the little things that you do matter. You don't have to have achieved a big fat goal to actually feel like you deserve some rest, because otherwise you will burn yourself out. So bestie, if you need some rest, take it, and don't feel guilty about it. So that's my tips to help you become her. I'm sure that there are so many other tips that we could discuss and add to this video. If you have any other tips, feel free to comment below. I'm curious to know what else you think we should add to that becoming her list. And if you liked this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already, hit the notification bell, and share it with a friend who needs to hear this right now. I will see you in the next one. Until then, take care. Bye bye.